Hello there, Badgers. Yes, I know I said I was going to get round to doing videos more regularly, then I had another abscess, and then cough started up again. I'm wanting to do more, but I couldn't help it with this one. I will be doing another one after this though, because there's something else I want to talk about. I'll talk about that at the end of this video. So I've spoken before about how I see the world, right? And I don't know if new viewers would have seen them. So I'm going to go over a bit now. And it could be that my thoughts on this have developed since then. So, but as this channel is in a bit of a format of a video journal of my philosophical and political journey. Let's see if this is developed from my last video. So basically, the way I understand reality, understand the world around me, is through the multifaceted nature of evolution. Now, understand again, as I said in the previous video, a lot of what I did growing up was learning about the history of life on this planet, and not just dinosaurs, but before the dinosaurs, non-avian dinosaurs, but before that and after that. And as I've gotten older and I've gotten more into human stuff, history and whatnot, I realise now that that's societal / social evolution. It is all under anything that lives, anything to do with living things evolves, right? So in just the same way that, for example, a small species of proto-mammal evolved into the elephant over many millions of years of diversification, of radiation into different groups, diversification into more groups, and like there are dead ends. There's things that certain species, certain lines will like de-evolve things and then or evolve things and then get rid of, like say they'll evolve to go into to live in the water and then evolve again to live on land later on down the line. That's not the same species, it's just the same line. So you take that thinking and you apply that to human history, to human societal / social evolution. It doesn't matter what you choose to talk about. It's evolved over time. Religion has evolved. Ideologies evolved. Even just within one ideology that evolves, that diversifies and radiates out and evolves. And yet there's this, I keep coming across this attitude of like, there's this clear, simple way to deal with this thing. And I'm like, it seems that way, but because of the way I understand reality, again, through the facet of the multifaceted nature of evolution, it almost never is. Which also has led me to my non-absolutist philosophy. There are very few absolutes, especially when it comes to living things. one of the few absolutes that I can discern is that evolution always happens so long as the line keeps going. Now people try to bring up the whole living fossils thing, right? Now, when they do that, they actually misunderstand what they're talking about. The coelacanth, or coelacanth, or whatever you want to call it, isn't the same species as what was living 65 million years ago. It's a very similar species, probably within the same branch. That doesn't mean it's exactly the same species. People do that with crocodiles as well. So they're living dinosaurs. No, living dinosaurs are birds. People still seem to have this almost Christian idea of how what life history works. Is really weird. But it's besides my point. The point is that the way I look at the world is through the eyes of evolution, with like history, music, politics, the different ideologies, the different religions, different cultures, different technologies. They all evolve. And evolution is an incredibly messy trial and error process. Again, when you look at biological evolution over the last 800 million years, if not longer, you'd be utterly astonished the amount of different forms that life has taken. People don't understand the absolute magnanimity, the hugeness of what I'm talking about either. Like, the history of life on Earth is no small thing to consider. It is absolutely massive. So when I narrow that understanding down to just Homo sapiens, and even then just down to the last 12,000 years since the end of the last full ice age, and even then, say just down to the last 100 years, for example, or 300 years to be fair, right? And even in that last 300 years, we have changed multiple times. I mean, it's funny because a lot of times people don't realise, for a random example, the Cornish that's taught today is not exactly the same as the Cornish that was spoken by the last native Cornish person, Cornish speaker, in the 1800s. What they're drawing on is actually an earlier version of Cornish. And people think they've learned something and they think, oh, I know about this. It's a lot more, it's simple now. This is always a lot more complex than people think. Which is why when I look at what's going on in the world today, I try not to be too. I try not to. I try to look as far into the future as I can for certain things to see what might happen, but I don't. Yeah, I would never. The future isn't set, so I never trust in the in. This is why I have problems making plans, because it's so unpredictable. never know what's going to happen next. It's ridiculous. I feel like I struggle to get across to people that I do understand why the different positions that people have, or at least since I've gotten into politics and I started doing debates as well and stuff. Like, I started being able to understand better people's positions. Say, just for example, on Gaza. Like, yeah, we should be we should be, we shouldn't be trying to accommodate Israel. But at the same time, materially speaking, what the what are the protest groups doing for those people in Gaza? Now, this is why I actually agree with the flotillas and whatnot that have been trying to go to Gaza via boat to take supplies via boat. It's nowhere near enough, but that is still materially doing something. I I feel like protests, like at the point we're at now, we really should be better at doing protests tactically, strategically. And I don't agree, by the way, with the government's position on Palestine action. I don't. Um, but I don't agree with Palestine action going on to a military base at the same time. He's just asking for trouble. Now, the trouble they're in is a whole lot more than they ought to be. But either way, they were asking for trouble. Are we really in the it's not a case of a question, really, is it? We are in the age of populism, in another age of populism, and I think there are a lot of things that are on a knife that are on the knife edge at the moment. There are a lot of things around the world that we don't know what exactly is going to happen next. Now, people are going to have predictions no matter what, and sometimes they're going to be right, sometimes they're going to be wrong. But I think that's the again, that is the danger of trying to predict the future. More short term is you're better off. That's where you're better off. Now, this view of reality that I have of of that is wholly based in evolution. Of it, for me, it makes things a whole lot clearer. But and it's not like I know everything about evolution. Far from it. But the more I learn, and the more I apply that thinking to human stuff, like again, politics, religion, history, the more I see that the way I think is runs true. I feel like a better education from an earlier age about evolution and making more of an importance about it, even see, I don't know, could you say that it's an ideology? Am I an evolutionist? I brought this question up, I think, a couple of years ago on this channel, and I do have this question of what is my ideology? I consider myself a socialist, right? In my ideals, not a communist. I consider that everything that I believe that I believe, ideologically speaking, stems from my philosophical basis in evolution. Where does that put me ideologically? And an evolutionary sociologist just sounds ridiculous. Evolutionary sociology. Yeah, not sociologist, not sociologist. What the fuck, socialist. Either way, it just sounds pretentious and ridiculous. But it does make me think, like, where do I sit ideologically? Now, when I've spoken, well, since I've gotten into politics, the more people I speak to who will try to define themselves by a particular ideology, and then when I ask and I talk to another person who self-described is of that same ideology, there are differences in how and what they believe in. Like, I've known socialists who are more down the line of the USSR kind of thing, more like the Chinese route of thing. I've met socialists who believe that we can get, get things done through the style of an Iron Bevan here in this country. You've got Mamdani in the US, who considers himself to be a socialist. And, it shows that socialism itself is it is radiated and diversified over the last 100, 200 years. It's evolved. I then think, well, what are really the things that we should try to unify over? Because when people try to say we are one people, I actually don't like that. We are all the same species. But to say that we are all one people is, to me, to deny evolution. I'm sorry, but if you just listen to what I've just said for the last 18 minutes and 50 seconds, then you should understand that I'm going to consider that to be anti-evolution, essentially. Like, I believe there are causes that people should unify around, that we as a species should unify around. But to make that an ideological thing that is not based on fact, but only on belief, results in where we're at now. So for me, what we need to unite around is climate change, and the climate change, sea level rise, and the biodiversity crisis. Because from that, stems so many of the other problems that we face around the world. Now, that doesn't mean that solving climate change, sea level rise, or at least mitigating climate change, sea level rise, and the biodiversity crisis will, solve everything else, but it will fucking help. Now, when you consider all that, consider the fact that I know us to be one of, if not the only species to be able to conceive of its own evolution and perceive our species is one of, if not the only species to perceive and to be able to conceive of its own evolution and to be able to consciously be able to affect it going forwards. The possibilities are endless, but we are held back by preconceived notions of purity and absolutism. We're held back by, this is the right way to do this. This is, why don't we try doing this and try doing that and see what works best? Like for me, just take England on its own, for example, right? For me, it seems the best idea would be to try different things for the area economically, to see what works, and not just like one thing in each area. Like even then, diversification on top of that. It's likely to naturally happen anyway. It's allowing for that to happen. That's the key. And allowing for it to, and needing it to be regulated as well, properly regulated. But just to bring this to a close, I do hope people can understand where I'm coming from when I talk about politics, when I talk about religion, when I talk about life in general. I see things through the eyes of evolution. And that is a lot more complicated than people seem to think it is. But at the same time, it's a lot more simple than people seem to think it is. Let me know what you guys think. This is probably like the third iteration of me talking about the way I see or even fourth iteration of the way I see the world. But I keep feeling like I'm being misunderstood. So I thought, especially for newer viewers as well, I thought I'd kind of lay things out there clearer on what I believe. I'm not going into my paganism in this video, into my faith. Just talking from a more grounded position, what my beliefs are, philosophically speaking. And I'm trying to get it in there for people to understand that everything to do with living things evolves, and that includes us. Well, why can't we do what we do? I can't believe I'm going on another tangent, but why can't we go and do the wealth taxes thing like we did in the 50s and 60s? Because the Bretton Woods Agreement is long and gone. What's the Bretton Woods Agreement? Oh, that's an agreement between the wealthiest countries in the world, most of the wealthiest countries in the world at that time, to tax the wealthiest people and redistribute that wealth down to the poor. Do you know why we can't do? Now, I'll give you 3 guesses as to why we can't do that now. There are probably many other reasons. There are probably 3 reasons and many more, but I'll give you 3 guesses as to why. And the main reason is the Bretton Woods Agreement is long gone. Meaning that, like, to really tax the wealthy to the way that people think that, to the way that some people on the left seem to think ought to happen, or the way you need an international agreement to do it. Trump is not going to agree to that shit. At the moment, I very much doubt that you'd be able to get this past most world leaders, especially in the more wealthy countries. Even here in the UK, you're just not going to get it past us. So we are really going to have problems. I mean, we've already got problems. We're going to continue to having worsening problems if we're not going to consider that to adapt, we may need to change the way we think. To get anywhere, we might have to change the way we think. A lot of the confrontational attitude, say, between the Scots and the English, for good reason, by the Scots, I will just add, but a lot of that will have to change for us to be able to move forwards. The same with our relationship with the Irish and many other places. But Israel is going to have to see that it will have to change, or it will eventually find itself a redundant state and die out. That's not being anti-Semitic. I'm just saying that, if you're going to continue to be aggressive in an aggressive state in that part of the world, like history says that you're like, unless you can continue to back that up long term, like you're in danger of being a short-term nation, a short to mid-term nation, not a long-term nation. Again, feeding back into what I said about, the way I see things through the eyes of evolution. Now, again, let me know what you guys think. Especially new viewers. Like, let me know what you guys think about what I had to say today. Sorry if you haven't been able to hear it properly. If you can't hear it properly, turn it the fuck up. I'm sorry, but like until I get until I've got free space to get some microphone, to get a microphone, 25 quid to get a microphone. Hopefully, I should be able to do it next month or the month after. But birthdays and stuff to sort out. No, I don't need donations. But either way, turn it up. Essentially. The next video I'm going to do, I'm going to talk about what's been going on in the news a little bit. Basically, I'm going to talk about what happened with Angela Rayner, okay? So, yeah. Please, let me know what you guys thought of all this. And if you think I'm wrong, I'd be really interested to know why. Why do you think my understanding is flawed? Why do you think I'm wrong? I do like the engagement. It's again, I'm sorry I've not really been being that active. It's why I hate summer. But I'm starting to feel a bit better in with myself again. And again, I know I said this last time, but I am starting to feel a bit better in with myself again. So I'm hoping to get more active on the channel again. I need to catch up and do loads of stuff. So yeah. Anyway, freaks, love and blessings, all you wonderful badgers. My shield at your backs and my sword at your service. Stay safe.